Welcome to Ty and That Guy. I am Wes Chatham, and this is my good friend, good pal, Ty Franck.
This is the last episode. This is Leviathan Wakes, and this is the episode title that set the standard. This was Narain's decision to make the last episode the title of the book it's based on, and we have done that ever since. The last episode of every season is the title of the book.
Where do you get your titles?
By being pretentious. So Daniel and I are super pretentious. Our titles are some mythological thing, has or does something. So Leviathan,
Sorry.
yeah, right?
Sorry.
See, exactly. No, that's exactly right.
Right.
That is the correct reaction.
Right. And then what about the artwork that you choose for your books? Is that, what is that process like?
We didn't choose. So when we sold Leviathan Wakes, yeah, this is 10 years ago. This is going to sound like I'm blowing my own horn here, but I am not. This is just a statement of fact.
It's going to sound like you're peeing in your own face.
It's going to sound like I'm peeing in my own face right now. James S.A. Corey is like a much bigger deal now, obviously, than he was 10 years ago. So when we sold Leviathan Wakes, we were just a couple of, Daniel had a bunch of sales under his belt, so he was a known quantity. I was a relative unknown. We wrote this book, we sent it out. We didn't expect to sell it for very much money. It sold for more money than we expected, which was cool, but we're not a big deal. So they don't ask you what artwork you want when you're just like a newly starting writer. Nobody asks.
Right.
But our publisher, Orbit, is they're quite good with, they're very nice to us, and they've always been very, they're team players, it's very much feels like a collaboration. So when they started picking artwork, Lauren, who is the art director over there at Orbit, sent us a bunch of art and said, what do you guys think of this? And we loved it. Daniel Dochu is the artist. He's done a lot. He's been working in concept art for like decades. He does a lot of concept art for like video game projects and stuff like that. Worked for Amazon for a while. Anyway, so he had these beautiful pieces of art, one of which became the cover of Leviathan Wakes. Now, it was not painted for us. It was painted, he just painted it, as on spec. They bought it for Leviathan Wakes. It worked so well that they went back to Daniel, and he has painted a custom piece of art for every cover since then. And what they'll do is Lauren or our editor will reach out and say, hey guys, is there a scene in this book that you've turned in that you think would make a good cover? And we'll say, oh, well, in the book, this thing happens. That might be a cool cover. That thing happens. It might be a cool color. They send all that to Daniel. Daniel paints whatever the fuck he wants to anyway. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter that he's not painting the scenes that we sent, because every piece of art that he paints is gorgeous. So we never complain. They're like, well, I know you said you wanted to see this scene as the art, but what Daniel painted was this other thing. And we're always like, yeah, no, cool. We'll take it. It's awesome. So Daniel just paints whatever he wants to paint. We stick it on the cover. We think it's great.
Yeah. Shout out to Daniel for making James S.A. Corey a success.
Yes.
Now, wouldn't it be fun?
No, Daniel and Lauren Panapinto. Orbit. She's the art director over there. She's the one who has put together all of our covers. The combination of Daniel and Lauren are the reason we are a success. That would give those two all the credit. For sure.
You know, it would be interesting is if James S.A. Corey won like a major award, and then you had somebody.
He has won several major awards.
And then you have somebody like Bill Murray or like Martin or something like that, like walk up as James S.A. Corey, or hire somebody to play the James S.A. Corey part, like as an actual person.
You know who I asked to do it? Like this was like, I don't know, 9 or 10 years ago. Or 8 or 9 years ago, I asked Jason Momoa to do it. I was like, if we ever win an award, will you pretend to be James S.A. He probably doesn't remember that, but he agreed. He was like, yeah, no problem, man. No problem, Todd.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was like 9 years ago when I asked him.
Yeah, then every woman in America would want to bang James S.A. Corey. That's pretty smart, Ty.
You mean they don't already?
Or every woman and man. I'm sorry. Wants to bang James S.A. Corey.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Well, who directed this, Ty?
Well, this is our good friend Terry, the Mad Irishman. McDonough.
The Mad Irishman, McDonough. I pass the shit Irish bar all the time. But it's closed, you said. It is closed. Everything is closed in Toronto right now. And then who wrote it?
Mark and Hawk, who wrote the pilot and developed the show, wrote the last episode of the season. Yeah.
So our friends Mark and Hawk wrote the finale. So we start this finale out. We'll start with Miller and Holden because I think they have a really fun storyline. They're basically melting from the inside. They're radiated. They are going and raiding these pharmacies, popping these drugs to help them deal with the pain of dying slowly, a slow radiated death. Being a child of the 80s and all the nuclear scare and everything, like, you know, that really taps into my worst fear growing up. All the movies, all the 80s Twilight Zones, they always had a radiation spin to it. And Holden and Miller, they're held up in a pachinko parlor. I mean, the pachinko parlor looks kind of fun to me. Like, what was the inspiration for that? I mean, it kind of has this really bright, colorful arcade, and I loved arcades growing up. So, what did you model that? What do you guys model that off of?
Oh, okay. So the idea was that Eros was one of the first asteroids that was settled and spun up and used as settlement, but became less and less relevant as time went on. And so the way Eros tried to keep an economy going is they turned themselves into a low-rent space Las Vegas. So basically the Eros of the Expanse universe is like Reno. You know, it's like not quite Las Vegas, but, you know, trying to be.
Yeah. And it's a little tired.
A little tired, worn out. A little worn down. Yeah. The dancers are, you know, the B-class dancers, not the A-class you get over at Vegas. So everything is just sort of that worn down sort of Las Vegas feel to it.
Right.
So the pachinko parlor is supposed to be that. Like, you know, there's this sort of worn down Las Vegas. Like, you could go in there and you could lose a little money.
And you know what?
Bright lights.
There is a little bit of sadness, like, just seeping through the walls of the pachinko parlor.
Right.
You know, and it's supposed to be a place of fun and joy, but there's definitely some lost dreams down there.
I don't know your experience with being in casinos, but every time I've been in a casino, especially the part of the floor where the slot machines are, that is how it always feels to me.
Yeah.
Right. Like you go over to like the table games like craps or blackjack. People seem like they're having fun. You go over to the slot machine part. No one in there seems like they're having fun. Everybody just seems kind of depressed, and they're pressing that button or pulling that handle over and over again. And it's just, I don't know. There's just a depressing nature to slot machines.
Well,
for me.
I think Vegas is a lot like cocaine. Like, it's exhilarating and exciting and fun and euphoria. And then the third day there, you want to shoot yourself and you reevaluate your whole reason for living and who you really are as a person.
Well, Dan Nowak always says that he can hang out in Vegas for 24 hours and that's it. So he flies in, you go all day, you grab a couple hours sleep, and you fly home. And that's it. Like, that is a Vegas trip for him. He won't do it longer than that.
And I'm with him. I will not. First of all, it would be very hard to get me to Vegas now. Just too much. Oh, yeah. Just too much trauma from my 20s. But if I do go, I got to get out. Like, I get there, have a little bit of fun, and get out. And then in the pachinko parlor, I think Holden and Miller have this odd couple kind of humor going on. I really enjoyed their performance in the pachinko parlor. And Miller explains to Holden that he tells him the story about how he used to stick his hands in the slot and they would get money that would feed him for a week. And then his hands got bigger and it got caught and he took a real beating for that. And Simi, his best friend, they both decided to be cops because it's better to be the boot than the ass. Yep. And then he says, which one are you? And then in that moment, he has the first vision of Julie Mao when he sees her and kind of that furthering that connection, that metaphysical connection that they have. What was the significance of that line, the boot in the ass and the...
I mean, that you'd have to ask Mark and Hawk, but I know it's a very Mark and Hawk style line. They have a real sort of rhythm and style to their writing, and it feels very much like a line they would write. But it's that line that seems pithy, but actually asks a deeper metaphysical question, you know, which is they made this choice. They felt like they were the oppressed. They made a choice to become the oppressor, right? Mm-hmm. But you wind up in a place where you have to ask yourself, is that actually what happened? Or did I just move to a different kind of being oppressed? Mm-hmm. And that's really, you know, that I think that's sort of the emotional underpinnings of that moment in that line is you became a cop, but do you really feel like you leveled out of this, or do you feel like you were still one of the oppressed?
And Holden explains to him that he's never killed anybody. And so we know at this point that Holden's never murdered anybody, and we know about Holden's moral compass. We know where he comes from. And I think one of the most brutal and realistic murder scenes is when a guard comes in and he's playing around in the pachinko and he's having fun with the games, and they realize that they have to murder this guy. Yeah. And Miller he's already overcame that hump. He's smoking fools left and right. But what was so powerful about this scene was it was Holden's first time being complicit in the murder, and it was brutal and it was raw and it was violent, and Miller's holding him at the head, and he's, you know, you can see how exhausted he was, and the guy's struggling, and Holden's holding his feet, and he's losing control of his feet, and then he brings him back down, and he's holding the guy's panicking. And whenever you see, like when we watch action movies, you know, you see, like you watch John Wick and there's 500 people that gets killed and it doesn't really register. It's more like a video game. But if you do it right, if you murder one person in this way, it's so shocking and so powerful, and also signifying Holden's crossover to the other side.
Well, I don't think he ever fully loses that idealism.
Well, when I say the other side, and let me clarify before we go in.
Yeah.
The other side it's kind of like, you know, it's one of those, he will never be the same. He's never going to be the same person after that. And the decisions that he makes from this moment further, we can see a little bit of the sadness and the darkness that happened in this. And even in his high moments or his bright moments, it never is the same that when we first meet Holden.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he's never, I don't think he's ever carefree again. When we first meet him on the Canterbury in episode 1, he really is kind of carefree. You know, he's just kind of, he's having fun being the third officer. He's chatting with people. He's going and getting, you know, the XO out of his cabin, and like it just going and talking to the injured crew member, but he never seems sad. He just kind of seems like he likes that job, right? But yeah, I think you're right. I think from this moment on, and I don't think it's just the murder, because I do think the murder has a serious impact on Holden. But what else happens in this episode and the previous episode, these two episodes together, is Holden sees the horrors that humans can inflict on each other up close and personal. And I don't think he ever shakes that for the rest of the series. I think he was never confronted with that before. That the horror that humans can do to each other. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the very next scene, they see these bodies and, you know, what the whole thing was designed to do. And they were all herded like cattle into these rooms, and they see these bodies being radiated as the protomolecules growing and absorbing them and taking their conscience. And, you know, when you see something like that, you don't come back from it.
Yeah.
But that murder scene was so powerful. It reminded me of the scene in Save It Private Ryan when the German soldier he's like, shh, as he's slowly plunging the knife, the knife, and the guy's trying to breathe. And that one scene just really elevated the violence of the whole movie. You know, what war is, and like humanity, and what that did. I mean, like knowing that soldier spent the rest of his life seeing that guy's face, like he'll never recover from that, and seeing murder like that.
Well, in one of the very next scenes, that soldier gets shot by Oppum. So he only saw that guy's face for a few more minutes.
Well, he sees him in eternity. Which death scene do you think? What do you think's the greatest murder scene in a movie? And I have the right answer if you want to hear it. I know what that is.
Okay, no. Greatest murder scene, or the scene that had the biggest impact on me?
How about this? We'll have two categories, okay? The most powerful murder scene that we've ever seen, which for me is like Save It Private Ryan, or the assassination of Jesse James in that movie, and then we have the most kick-ass murder scene. And I have the right answers for both of those, but I want to see what you think.
I saw Easy Rider when I was way too young to watch that movie, and I didn't understand the movie because I was just a kid, you know. I didn't understand it, but like I wanted to be those guys because they just seemed like they were having a good time. They had cool motorcycles, they were riding around, they were hanging out with their friends. Like all of that seemed really cool to me. And then the ending of that movie where the redneck drives by and just shoots them with the shotgun, and that's the end of the movie, that it cuts to black. That fucked me up as a little kid because it was so random. It was there was no purpose to it. And the idea that you can just be doing what you want to do and having fun, and someone else can just come in your life for no reason. And you don't get a do-over. You don't get a second chance. You don't get to like confront them about it or make it right. In my head as a little kid, I'm like, that guy's going to get away with it. He's just going to drive off in his truck and he's going to go home and he's going to have a beer and he's going to watch some TV and there's no consequence. But for those two guys, that's the end for them. And that being confronted with that as a kid fucked me up. Like that changed my view of the world. So I think that one for me
is that what happened, Ty? I mean, that explains a lot. Like, I think I wonder what Ty would have been like if he wasn't traumatized as an early child by a murder scene. All right, what's the biggest kick-ass death murder scene? There's only one right answer for this.
I gotta say, I really like the John Wick movies.
I do too.
I do too.
But that's every death in that. Like
no. But I'm not gonna say the one you expect. I like when he kills Theon Greyjoy, which is the least kick-ass murder in those movies. But I like that he's been looking for this guy for the entire first movie. He's killed like 87,000 people to get there. And when he gets there, he doesn't talk to him. He doesn't go, you killed my dog. You stole my car. Like, there's none of that bullshit that you would normally see in an action movie.
Yeah.
He just shoots him. The guy falls down. He's like holding his side where he got shot. And he's going, it was just a fucking dog. Keanu Reeves doesn't say a word. Just pops him in the head and walks away. That, I think, that was badass because it was no bullshit. There was no posturing. There was no like, ha, I got you, motherfucker. It was just, I've been killing a lot of people to get to you. Now I got to you. Now you're gone.
Yeah. I think I agree with you 100%. John Wick just gets it right. I mean, especially the first one. I mean, it is just
the first one is brilliant.
It is brilliant, and also, you know, it's one of those things where when when people talk about writing, it's like you give something that everybody wants, but they don't know they want it. And so every now and then, it's kind of like the first Matrix. You know, every now and then there's a movie that comes out, and you're just like, hell yeah! It just really strikes at home. The one I'm thinking of is in Roadhouse when he rips out that dude's throat.
Rips out the throat.
Yeah, dude. I mean, yeah, that's.
But here's the thing: I'm always laughing my ass off by the time we get to that scene. Because the scene just before it, he's like, I used to fuck guys like you in prison. And I'm always like, you used to fuck guys in prison? Like, every time. And I'm just laughing my ass off. So by the time he pulls his throat out, I'm like the mood is lost.
That's like the Billy Madison line when he's like, I used to eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast. He's like, you eat pieces of shit for breakfast?
No, that wasn't Billy Madison. Wasn't that
Happy Gilmore?
Happy Gilmore?
Yeah, Happy Gilmore. Yeah.
I pieces of shit like you for breakfast. Yeah, but that like I used to fuck guys like you in prison. And if I was Patrick Swayze, which I'm like not even 1% of Patrick Swayze. So, but I'm saying if I was Patrick Swayze, if I was standing there and he goes, I used to fuck guys like you in prison, I'd be like, when you said that in your head, you thought that sounded badass, right? Like you expected that to be the most badass line you've ever said. And did you listen to it though when you were saying it in your head before you said it out loud? Because what you just told me is that you used to fuck a bunch of dudes in prison. Which, I mean, hey, like if everybody's consenting, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying, that's not as badass as you think.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with fucking dudes in prison. But if you say it as if, you know, in the context of the 80s and what he was trying to say it as an intimidation thing, because Swayze would have been like, well, I mean, you want to fuck me? Like, you know? It's like, what are we fighting for? You know?
Now that's a surprising moment. If Swayze just goes, really?
Dude, that's what Roadhouse is anyway.
And they cut to them just fucking.
That's what, look, we're going to remake that shit, and it's going to turn into a love story between, what was his name, the bad guy? Swayze and then the bad guy.
Yeah, I don't remember what the bad guy's name was.
See,
that's a movie that should be made. Yes. That's fucking great.
And that's what the real subtext and undertone is of that scene. You know?
All of those. Here's the funny thing about hyper masculine movies. So movies like 300, movies like Roadhouse, movies where like everybody is a peacock and they're preening and they're so hyper masculine all the time. They're super homoerotic. Like 300 just is like the most homoerotic movie ever. Now I love 300. I'm fine with a homoerotic movie. I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying, I don't think the filmmakers are making the movie they think they're making.
Well, you know what? It's interesting. It's like I heard Dax Shepard, I think it was in an interview or something, but he was talking about how he got in the best shape of his life for the movie Chips. And he's like, you know, I dieted, I got down cut. He said, I finally got in the best shape of my life. Always, you know, with our whole lives of what we imagine getting in shape would do, you know, he was like, he wondered how much attention he was going to get from girls. Or like he goes, my wife probably couldn't tell you, like if I would have said, hey, you know, I've been working out, does anything look different? She would not notice anything. She was completely clueless at the sacrifice I was putting into getting in shape. And not one girl out in town or friends or anything noticed. He says, but there was like 10,000 dudes. He said that, like, he goes, you know, I would be going on, you know, walking onto an airplane, and people would be like, hey man, you got jacked for chips, you know, like giving them fist bumps and everything. And then I'm like, that just sums up the whole 80s, right? You think about Sylvester Stallone, you think about Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was the dudes that were into the bodies. It wasn't like the
dudes that were into it.
It was the dudes that were in the body. And then what the myth is you're a kid and you're like, all right, I'm going to start, you know, if I look like Sylvester Stallone, I'll get some attention, you know. And then the little smart guy in the corner that wrote, you know, that got an education and knew how to speak and wrote beautiful prose. He's the one that usually takes your girlfriend. So
I mean, there is no doubt that on my best day, I'm barely a 4, and my wife is an easy 9, easy. Yeah. And on her best day, she's a 10. So yeah, the little smart dude.
No, it's good. Yeah, your wife being a doctor, that probably puts her over the 10 scale, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, as far as relative attractiveness
and
goes,
don't be hard on yourself, Ty. Listen, I'm a good friend of Ty, and I don't like it when people talk bad about him, all right? So I want you to take those words out of your mouth. You are easily a 4.5.
Thank you. Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you know, I'm here for you, buddy.
I appreciate that extra half point you gave me. But you know, but here's the thing though, is what is your confidence based on? None of my confidence is based on physical attractiveness. Like, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
But like when you're a kid, this is exactly what you're talking about. When you're a kid, you think, if I had big muscles, then I would be confident, and then I would be like the women would like me, or whatever, you know, whoever you want to like you. But the truth is, I've hung out with a lot of bodybuilders. Like one of my best friends, his father is a bodybuilder.
Right.
And his father and his father's best friend were like bodybuilders in the 70s. They worshiped Arnold Schwarzenegger. They had gyms, they had professional level gyms in their houses so they could lift like 4 hours a day, you know, that kind of bodybuilder, right?
Right.
And those guys are jacked as hell. And all of their friends are bodybuilders. That is the most insecure bunch of dudes I have ever been around.
God.
They're so fucking insecure, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, when you're a kid though, you tell yourself, if I get muscles, that will make me feel secure.
Yeah.
And then I'll get women. Like you said, women don't care about like the huge bodybuilder dude. And those dudes are so fucking insecure, man. Like I'm way more secure than those bodybuilder guys. Like, I'm totally secure in my shit.
But then you think about, what is the use? What is it good for? Because when MMA came out and you start seeing these guys that are whooping everybody's ass, those jack bodybuilders were the steroid heads. They were the first one to get their ass handed to them. You know, Hoist Gracie was like 165 pounds, and he fucked everybody up.
Yeah, he's just choking dudes out right and left.
Yeah, just choking dudes right out and left. And it's like, you know, you know what? I feel bad for the kids of the 80s. They got sold a bill of goods. You know, they're in the gym trying to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then all of a sudden, you know, Ultimate Fighting Championship comes out, and they're like, Jesus, like, I've been wasting all my damn. I should have been training jiu-jitsu, fucking boxing, you know. And then Brad Pitt in Fight Club comes out, and he's like 125 pounds and just a shredded. And all of a sudden he's getting the girls' attention. And you're like, oh shit, you know?
Yeah, you know,
you start ripping your Arnold posters off the wall and start throwing them in there. You lied to me, Arnold.
So that's funny that you bring up Brad Pitt, because like, scary dudes, like the dude that I'm scared of, like, I'm generally not scared of other guys. I've been in a bunch of fights. Like, I'm generally not scared of other guys. The guy that I'm scared of is the Brad Pitt character from Snatch.
Oh yeah,
the bare knuckle boxing dude.
Yeah,
and he's skinny, but he's shredded.
Yeah,
and he just looks fast.
Yeah, and
that's
sexy.
the guy I'm scared of. Yeah, sexy as hell.
Is that just me?
And really fast. No. He's super sexy.
He's fucking Brad Pitt is, you know, in this same podcast, I heard Dax talk about Apex Brad. That's what they were I think it was a podcast with Rob Lowe, and they're talking about Apex Brad. Legend of the Fall is 100% Apex Brad, but I'm basically like straight quoting what they were talking about their podcast, but I agree wholeheartedly
Well, let's just rip off other podcasts. That's
that's a good thing.
What did Joe Rogan talk about today?
I haven't heard Joe Rogan today, but one thing I learned early too was, and thank God I had the dad. My dad was very funny. And so, you know, I remember like growing up and, you know, so much of all of our lives is, you know, trying to attract whatever it is that we're attracted to, you know, whatever the things are that we're attracted to. But
yeah,
my dad could always make girls laugh. You know, he could always make people laugh. And then that was more effective than anything. You know, that's one of the things that I learned growing up. But I don't know how this guy, where do we get here?
Because we were talking about how homoerotic Roadhouse is.
How homoerotic the 80s were.
Yeah, they were super homoerotic, which gets us back to the homoerotic relationship between Miller and Holden after that murder. So now they're in the pachinko parlor. They've committed this murder together, and they have this touching moment.
Now they're blood brothers, literally.
Now they're blood brothers. Yep.
But can I just take a minute to compliment Miller on vomit acting, because he vomits on screen better than anybody I've ever seen. If you could win an Academy Award for vomiting, you know when he walks out of the thing and he unexpectedly just vomits and he catches it in his hand and he just throws it side to side and then keeps on walking. That was great. That was a great vomit thing. Good on you, Miller. That was a nice vomit.
And give Thomas Jane full credit, because we did not script all those vomit scenes. He just really loves throwing up on camera. So he was always asking the prop guys, he was always like, hey, can I get some more of that vomit? Because, you know, they make like this soup or whatever is the fake vomit.
Yeah.
And so they were just handing him cups of that shit constantly because he just loved throwing up on camera. So that's improvisation vomit. But that wasn't in the script.
That's another layer. That is another, it wasn't even scripted.
No, he improvised that vomit. Yeah.
Wow. God bless him. God bless him. And they get in this great shootout. And here's the thing I think we should start doing, Ty. I think it'd be fun, is we should start grading all the actors on each episode and how well they do, and like give them a what could go wrong?
Because we're not friends with these people or anything.
I know. But we got to be brutal. I mean, that's what we're here for. We got to be brutal. But I think Thomas Jane gets a high mark in my book in this episode. He's just really good.
Yeah.
And when he runs out and he's trying to get the Belters fired up against the Blackwater Mao's men, and he gets them riled up, and they get into the shootout. There's a moment where he's he's just so free and loose and has this great thing. But there's a moment when he looks around, and I swear to God, I almost wanted to freeze frame it and put it on there. But he looks like, because the helmet's so big and it kind of like cocks on his head.
It's bobbling around.
It's bobbling. He looks like Rick Moranis in Spaceballs. Like he has a moment of Rick Moranis in Spaceballs.
Or remember that moment that ended Michael Dukakis's political career in the 80s? Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
And he went for a ride on a tank, and they thought it would be this great photo op. But they put the big tank helmet on him, and it was bouncing around, and it made him look like Dark Helmet. That ended his presidential run. That one video.
I thought what ended Dukakis's run is he was asked the question, I think it was on Charlie Rose or somebody, if somebody attacked your wife, you know, would you want them, I think he used the word rape your wife. Do you know what I'm talking about? The famous question?
Yeah.
And would you want them to have the death penalty? And he said, and he answered in a way, because he was against the death penalty, but he answered in a way where the other side were able to dehumanize him, you know? Yeah. And then that play, Farragut North, they kind of revisit that question, you know, and the guy says, if that happens to my wife, I'll, you know, track the guy down and do everything to murder him. But I think as a society, we should be better than the individual, and we should have a higher standard.
They actually used that exact moment in an episode of West Wing. I don't know if you watched West Wing when it was on, but where they ask the president that question, and he gives that style of answer where he says, of course I would want him dead. I would want him to die slowly and painfully, but that's why we don't leave legal questions up to the victims. That's why that's why we have laws that take those decisions away from the people.
Yeah.
And which I think is the right answer, because of course you would want them dead.
Yeah. And I think the reason it's coming out in all these fictional stories is that because people are like, you should have answered it this way. And it's like the need to answer it the right way, because I think that was the nail in Dukakis's coffin before the...
And it might very well have been, but
the dark helmet didn't work.
The video of him bouncing around in that tank with that helmet bouncing, what it did is it made him look comical.
Yeah.
It made him look like a clown. And we don't want clowns as president, apparently, in this. I do. I would love a clown as a president. But
okay.
I'm not talking about Trump. I'm talking about like an actual clown.
Okay.
You know, like Krusty. Yeah. Krusty the clown. I'd take
that. Yeah. So they make it back to the Rossi. And then again, great physical acting by Miller when he just sloppily throws himself down in the hole. And then he kind of like awkwardly climbs back up against the wall.
Yeah.
And it's the end of their rope. You don't know if they're going to make it or not. And then at the very...
Well, they think you guys may have left without them.
Yeah.
And if you have, they're just going to die in that airlock. They know that. They're just going to sit in that airlock and die.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then the floors open up and Julia Mal appears and there's a white light underneath her. And then she says, you look like, and then it goes to Amos and says, you look like shit.
Yep.
Miller looks back and he says, so beautiful. Now, my question to you is, who's he talking about? Is he talking about Amos or is he talking about Julia Mal? Because I have my opinions.
I think you're equally beautiful. I think you're both beautiful. So I'm not saying one is better than the other. And I won't speak for Thomas. You know, Thomas can decide which of you he was talking about.
Maybe we can leave it up for the audience to decide. But one thing that's not debatable is Amos is not equally as beautiful as Julia Mal is.
I think there are people who would disagree with that. I think your wife probably thinks you're more beautiful than
my mom. No, my mom and my wife.
Your mom and your wife.
Yeah. They always got my back. Don't ask my wife after a couple of drinks, though. No, I'm just kidding.
Now, if we asked your boys who's more beautiful, I think we know who's going to win.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's no question. Okay, let's jump into the rest of the Rossi crew. Simba, Timba, and Amos just smoke some fools. They just finished their shootout, and Simi realizes, oh, these are Holden's friends, and you know something's happening, and he puts it together. He sees that they're hauling these guys off, and they're doing something weird in chambers, and how would he get out of there? Then Naomi says, is there a mech shaft close by? Because I can get us out of here. And he says, those things are so confusing. But she talks about the marks that the OPA left in there, and that's how they navigate. And then Amos and Kaz have a look, and then there's that suspicion. And I think one of the things that I really loved about season 1 is how mysterious Naomi's character was and how you're constantly wondering, and going back and kind of reading about these episodes and hearing people thinking like, what is Naomi up to? What is her real story? What's going on?
Yeah. She's got a bit of a past. Our Naomi does.
She has a bit of a past. So they make it down in the tunnels, and some of the Belter refugees, people down there, they ask for help, and they come to.
Yeah.
And then this is the first time we get to see Amos see the little girl and then want to protect her and want her to be a part of the group. And I think, you know, as a writer, you know, creating a character, what a great detail to, and how rich does it make the history of Amos and what's happened to him in his childhood when he has that connection to kids, and when you get to see the thread of goodness in him when it comes to innocence in those little kids.
I mean, the one thing that has always been true in the books, and we've made sure as a writing team, all the people who write the show, is that the only time you see full beast mode out of Amos is when a child an innocent is threatened. When somebody that Amos thinks is blameless and innocent is threatened with harm, that's when you get beast mode Amos. Mm-hmm. And I think it's exactly what you're talking about. It speaks to his past, because the thing Amos never had when he was a child is he never had an Amos. Mm-hmm. He never had that person who comes and saves him. And I'm sure as a child he dreamed of that. He wanted that. Like the horrible things that were happening to him, I'm sure in his mind he pictured this fantasy person who would show up and save him, take him, you know, fight off the people who are hurting him and take him away and protect him. And so when that moment happened, when he sees that moment happening to another kid, I think there's this just instinctive, automatic part of his brain. He just turns into that person that he imagined would save him. If you want to get yourself fucked up, like if you're like, you know what I need to be fucked up today, threaten a kid when Amos is in the room. That's how you do it. That's the button. You press that button, you're getting fucked up. And we see that over and over again in the show. It's one of my favorite things to do with Amos.
So now they're lost in the tunnel, and they're hearing all these weird groanings and these weird noises, and something is very terrible happening all around them. And there's this great scene where a woman that's halfway through her transition, her changing, or being absorbed by the protomolecule, and she's laying over the grate.
Yeah.
And one of the refugees looks up, and ooze falls out of her mouth and falls into his face.
Yep.
And it reminds me of one of my favorite scenes in a zombie movie. And I can't remember the actor's name, but I think it was 28 Days Later.
It was 28 Days Later.
Yes.
Yep. It was.
If only we had a producer that was listening and sent us little.
Tell us what his name is.
Tell us what his name is.
Yeah, what is his name?
Brendan Gleeson.
Brendan Gleeson. Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, sweetheart.
So yeah, Brendan Gleeson, who he gets the drop of blood in his eye, which is because I don't remember if it's 30 seconds or 60 seconds, but they've established before that once you get infected, it's so many seconds until the infection takes over. It's like 60 seconds or whatever. And I remember reading a critic write a review of that movie that I was reading after I'd seen it, where he said, I have never been in a theater before where you could literally hear every single person in the theater counting to 60.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And it is that moment. It's that moment where the blood drops in his eye and you already know, and you love that character. You love him. You don't want him to die.
No.
But you know he's infected now, and you are just counting to 60.
And he's telling his family and his people, he's like, get away from me, go, run. Yep. And he's like, ah, and he's starting to like shoot around and jump around. Just such a great scene. Now, in the books, you know, one of the things I was really excited about exploring is the vomit zombies, right? That are affected by the promolecule. They come out and they're vomiting on people. I felt like we could have went a little further on this into the zombie world.
So yes. So at the time, the producer at Alcon, who had developed the show and we were working with, I think she was very sort of worried that there was this zombie fatigue, that there was so much zombie stuff going on. She really pushed us to move away from the zombie piece. And I would like to take a moment to explain the whole vomit zombie thing, because there are people like, where did that come from? And why did you use the word zombie? And that doesn't feel like sci-fi, all that. Let me just explain. Before I worked with Daniel writing Leviathan Wakes, I had worked on another story that I was writing. It never got published, but it sort of got half written, about a person who's dealing with an Ebola outbreak in Africa. And I was doing a ton of research on Ebola and Ebola outbreaks. And a lot of that research got used for the protomolecule. When Daniel and I were writing Leviathan Wakes, he'd say, how does this infection spread? And I go, let's use the Ebola model. That's the model that makes the most sense to me. So we talked a lot about how Ebola works. And one of the things that can happen when you get infected by Ebola is you reach a stage where you're basically melting from the inside. All of your internal organs are sort of melting. Your stomach and intestinal lining and all that is turning into goo. And your brain is melting as well. But sometimes people who are at that stage can still be ambulatory. So those people are walking around. They can still walk and move, but periodically they're throwing up. And what they are throwing up is basically the most infectious substance on Earth. It is this black goo that if it gets on you, you've got Ebola, right? And in one of the articles out I was reading, one of the people talking about that phase of Ebola infection called them vomit zombies. He used that phrase of like, you've got these vomit zombies walking around, throwing up on people. Everybody they throw up on is now infected with Ebola, and talked about it as this really dangerous phase of the infection. That's where I got that term from. So it is actually from an actual term used by somebody talking about a phase of Ebola infection. That's where it came from. And that's why in the book, when people get infected, there's that phase where they're sort of wandering around throwing up, because that's how the protomolecule infection spreads itself to everybody else. So that's where it came from. But Sharon Hall at Alcon didn't want us to lean that far into zombie territory. She was worried that they would sort of be off-putting in a sci-fi show like this. And I don't know if she was right or not, but she's a very smart woman. And yeah, she gave us a lot of great things. So
she was probably right.
She's probably right. She's very smart.
The handful of nerds like us, we're the only people disappointed, but all the other people that like good storytelling. So, Sharon Hall is a very smart story person. So
very smart lady. Yeah. And
so she's probably
right. And she also gave us a bunch of advice in the first season that was enormously helpful to the show. Yeah. She was the one who said, we need to bring a Vasarala out of book 2 and into season 1. And she was 100% right about that.
Yeah.
So give Sharon full credit for making a lot of really smart decisions that helped the show early on. That one, I don't know if she was right or not, but if Sharon Hall gives you advice and your choice is to take it or not take it, you take it.
You take it.
You take that advice. Yeah.
Now we finally get to the Rossi. And the guy that had the protomolecule drop in his face, he's all of a sudden not with him anymore.
Yeah.
And Naomi says, what happened to the guy that was with us? And Sima said he was affected, so don't worry about it. And Amos says to her, don't worry about it. So at that point that Simi and Amos took this guy out. And what's interesting about what you're building up to is when they finally board the Rossi, Naomi wants to wait for Holden, but Simi wants to get the fuck out of there. Now, up until this point, Amos has always been on Simi's side. He's always arguing. He sees things the way Simi sees things, and Holden has not endeared himself to Amos yet. They do not have that relationship, that connection. He's saying, let's get the fuck out of here. And Simi's saying, let's get out of here. And we're all on board to do this thing. Let's get out of here. And Naomi is saying, no, she wants to wait for Holden. So then Simi, thinking that he has everybody on his side, he pulls the gun, he points it at her face, and he says, we're getting out of here and let's go now. And Amos blows back his head off. He falls on the ground. And I think this was the first moment in terms of just interviews or seeing people where they're starting to really see how different Amos is by how he calmly walks over and says, do you mean to sew this below? And it was such an interesting reversal because now Amos's relationship to Naomi and what she means to him and how he looks at those sort of things and how he handles those sort of things.
Well, and it's all contained in that one line where he says, you said wait, boss, so we wait. It's all in that line. It's just, he's saying the murder of Semitimba, the cold, methodical way he did it, it's all contained in that line. He's saying, you get the final say, Naomi. You are the final vote. And when you said we stay, that counteracted everybody else's vote. And Semitimba didn't understand that.
Yes.
And that's why he's dead now. And you brought up an interesting point. I want to back up a little bit. The interesting thing that's happening here is Semitimba and Amos have a very similar backstory in that they have very difficult childhoods with a lot of abuse, childhoods with a lot of violence. In this moment, what's happening on Eros, Semitimba and Amos instantly understand the situation. This is a survival situation. You do anything you need to do to survive and get out of it. They have that shared context. So when Semitimba gets rid of the guy who's infected and Naomi's like, what happened to him? And Amos goes, don't worry about it. What he's saying is, even if Semitimba killed him, Amos gets why. It's like, this is a survival situation. That guy threatened our survival, therefore he has to go. And I love that they find that common bond without talking to each other about it. Like Amos and Semitimba never have a conversation about it, but I think they instantly recognize in each other, oh, that guy gets it. That guy gets what's happening here. He's somebody I could rely on. The mistake Semitimba makes is thinking that bond that they now have transcends the bond that Amos and Naomi have. That's the mistake he makes, and he pays for it with his life.
What would Ty Franck do in that situation?
I've thought about that a lot, and my move is it's me, it's my wife. The two of us are going to survive, and I will drag her across a pile of bodies to get her out of the situation.
Well, so hold on. Here's a good.
Well, hold on. But that thing where Amos says we're a tribe of two, that's a line stolen from me.
Right.
But I have described my view in that way, that Janae and I are a tribe of two, and we'll walk across a pile of corpses to get out of something together.
Okay, so let me try to put this in the right, just to see what your choice would be, because our first season together is a good analogy to what the fictional season of what they've been through. Okay, so let's say that we're in that situation, and it's you, Ty Franck, and Naomi, and you were on the ship with Narain. It was you, Narain, and Naomi. And she's saying, what do you get the fuck out of here? And Holden and Stephen Strait and Wes Chatham are on their way, but they're late. And there's zombies coming in. And Dominique is saying, we got to wait for Wes and Stephen. What is Ty, Franck, and Narain? Are you leaving Wes and Stephen?
This is going to sound silly.
You're hesitating, you.
Here's the question. Is Janae on the ship? If she's not on the ship, I'm waiting for you guys.
Okay. The reason
if she's on the ship, your asses are getting left.
But the reason Janae is not on the ship is because Naomi doesn't have anybody that special to her on the ship that that Janae is to her. So it's got to be a direct comparison. And so, wow, that really touches me that you would wait for me.
Yeah. Look, here's the thing: is I'm way less protective of my own life than I am protective of her life.
Yeah.
So I would take risks for a friend that I would never take with Janae's life for a friend.
Yeah.
So if a bunch of guys start attacking you in this, like you and I are walking at 3 a.m. from a bar in Toronto, and some dudes step out and they start throwing fists at you, I'm jumping in. Like I'm not going to let you get beat down and not try to help, right? I'm going to jump in. I'm going to try to help. That's automatic. Mm-hmm. If there's 3 of us, it's me, you, and Janae, and we're walking down the street. Some guys come out and they start throwing fists. The first thing I'm going to do is ensure her safety.
Get her away.
Then I'm going to come back and try to help you.
Yeah. It's interesting because a lot of the things that just don't bother me, if it's something that happens to my kids or my wife, it's a whole nother.
It's a whole other thing.
It's a whole nother thing, man.
Like I'm pretty sure that like I could be as mean to Daniel as I want, and he's gonna like have hurt feelings or forgive me or whatever.
Yeah.
If I was mean to Scarlett, I'm dead to him, right?
It's
a whole other thing. Like
it's a whole other thing.
Like you and I will tease each other and whatever. If I was ever mean to one of your kids, I would expect that you're choking me out.
Yeah.
Right? Like I would just expect that.
Well, like, and here's the thing, like, you don't have kids. It's actually a problem for me. Like, if I go to a sporting event and my kids are playing soccer or on the playground or whatever, if a kid is mean to them, it devastates me. And I seriously think about, I am going to fuck that kid's dad up. And like you, like,
and it happens all the time, man.
It happens all the time. And the guy's like, "Wow, why are you attacking me?" It's like, because your kid's an asshole. Now, granted, I'm not saying I'm blind to my kids being assholes, and if I ever see them and luckily and hopefully, I'm not blinded by being a dad, but they're, have been really kind to other kids. But if I've ever seen them being mean or bullying, like I would be hard on them as well. But if there's ever, like if they're playing soccer and a guy fouls him or whatever, I literally scan the crowd for his dad. And there's always a part of me that's like, you keep it up, and your dad's gonna be limping home.
Well, and here's the thing: is there's a whole like if any of the dads of kids who play with your kids in soccer are ever hear this podcast, they're gonna get nervous because let me just state for the record that like most actors who play tough guys are not tough guys. You do not want to get in a fight with Wes. Wes is a scary motherfucker. The amount of jujitsu training that you do and fight training that you do, I would be terrified to get in a fight with you, man. So if you're the dad of a soccer kid and your kid's kicking little Chatham in the shins, you need to get that kid under control because this motherfucker's across the field looking for you.
Now I can see this now. Like the next soccer game I'll be going to, it's like a bunch of dads get together and being like, "This guy's fucking threatening us on tying that guy. Let's go. We're gonna go fuck Amos up." So now we're at Avasarala's storyline. Now, I don't want to be annoying, and I hate it when you see interviews and people are talking about shows and everybody kisses everybody's ass, but not realizing now that I haven't really watched the show, and since Avasarala and I really don't work together and I'm seeing this stuff, I'm really just getting a sense of how good she really is, and she is a phenomenal, first-rate actress in all these scenes. And this scene here in the finale, when she starts connecting all the dots about the drive signatures on the ships, and then Aaron Wright shows up and he says, "Yeah, this was here," and then she starts to connect that he's lying and that Jules Pierre Mao is a friend of his, and now she connects all that, figures it out like that. Such a great scene. It was so well written.
And you see it on her face.
You see it on her face.
She doesn't say a word.
She doesn't say a word. She doesn't say a fucking word. And that's, if you want to talk about somebody, there is nothing in that scene. She is telling you with her performance what to think. So if there was somebody that wasn't as skilled as an actress as she is, and that you were doing that scene, you might miss a lot. You might not be able to because there's nothing in the scene in any other performances to tip you off on what's happening. It's all about her reactions. But but it has to be subtle because they can't know in the scene, but only because we spent 10 episodes with Avasarala at this point. We know her. We know the way she thinks. She's earned this moment through her performance and through her subtlety and everything. And so what she's doing in the scene is extremely difficult because she is telling you what's really going on in the most subtle ways. So if you're watching that, and there are scenes that you've seen like this where you're like, wait, what happened and who, what? Because they didn't have the level of ability that she has. And so it's a smaller scene, but it's a special one. And it's just, she's just fucking great. She's so good. And then she's back on the roof with her first husband. She quietly divorces him and gets a new one towards the end of the the series. But she's on the roof with her first husband, and they have that great thing where she's like, I think you're going to have to go to Luna for a while. And he's like, well, if it's dangerous for us, it's going to be dangerous for you. And she's like, not yet. Not if I continue playing the role, but she's figured it all out. She's so goddamn smart and such a good actress.
Yeah, she really is. And keep in mind, English is not her first language. So
English isn't my first language. I'm from Georgia, man.
You're from the South. Southern is your first language.
Yeah, Southern is my first language.
But her performance, she has to do all of that while not speaking what her first language is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's an astonishing performer. I mean, there's a reason. So all of our cast, I think all of our core cast is very good. But I mean, she's got an Academy Award nomination. She's got an Emmy from an HBO series she did. I mean, clearly she is in that top 1% of performers. We're so lucky to have her. Yeah.
So we'll give her an A in this performance. Who gets a C?
A C?
I'm just kidding. Don't do that. That'd be so fucked up.
I have one D, but it's for last episode. I got a D, and it's
okay.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Yeah, the D performance last episode, and the D is being generous. Like, it could very easily be a failing grade. Yeah. But I'm being generous, and I'm giving these guys a D. Those two knuckleheads who come off of the transport on Eros with Thomas Jane, those two extras.
Those
guys are the
Hold on a second.
worst.
Hold on a second.
Those guys are the worst.
I am so pissed off that we missed this great moment because there was a day where I guess security was slacking off around set or whatever.
Yeah.
But there was a motley crew that stumbled their way into the set. Just stumbled in. Yeah, and it's James S.A. Corey, and it's if you take Ty and Frank, and Daniel Abraham, and you slam them together, they turn into Jason Momoa. So
yeah, that's true.
To be James S.A. Corey. So if you split them apart, it's Ty Franck and Daniel Abraham, and they had a cameo. Was it last one or no? It was the one before last.
Oh no, it wasn't. It was episode 8. Excuse me.
It was episode 8. Yeah.
8.
So, but that's a really cool moment to have the authors of the book be extras in there. And Ty, I gotta say, man, your belter swagger was on, man.
So I'm playing the most broke ass belter that has ever lived. He doesn't even have luggage. He's got a ratty ass, dirty stained jacket on. He doesn't even have any luggage. His hair's all fucked up. He's just looking terrible. That guy had a rough weekend.
You know what your subtext is in that scene? Is like your subtext is like, I don't know how they talked me into doing this, and I just want to get off of camera as soon as I possibly can. Because you know, you've watched enough filmmaking to know the banana walk, right? The banana walk is where you kind of edge out, you curve out, so you extend your time in the frame, and then you come back as you get there. So a lot of actors, they know the tricks of when they're walking, whatever, to stay in frame longer. Now, if you take a direct route to where you want to go, you come off camera so much faster because of the distance between where you are on camera. And Ty, when he walks in there, he's head straight down and looks and beelines off camera, and he's being shy. He's being shy. He's not giving us all we want to see.
Here's we're jumping back 2 episodes. This is the moment where we lose the rest of our podcast audience because we're so bad at this. But Daniel, they gave him a cup, like a little coffee cup. So I walk off the ship with no luggage at all. Daniel, the only luggage he's got is a coffee cup, which is perfect. Perfect for Daniel and I. But the other thing is he kept fucking the scene up. So my extra game is on point. Like, I know where I'm starting. I know how to hit my mark, and I know where I'm going. Daniel kept looking into the lens.
No, really?
He fucked up like 2 or 3 takes.
Daniel, get out. Come on.
Such an amateur.
Such an amateur. You know,
That's looking right down the barrel, man.
Because he doesn't spend any time on set. You can't get his ass out of New Mexico,
right?
You know, so if he was on set, he would know you don't look down the barrel, man. You don't look down.
The barrel. But he did it like 2 or 3 times. Like, can I tell you my other little tidbit about that?
Yeah.
So I've never been an extra before.
But hold on, wait, before you do that, before you go on,
yeah,
I do think it's hilarious that you're coming off this transport. Everybody else has got bags. Everybody else got shit. And y'all don't got shit.
We don't have shit.
You don't carry nothing.
Daniel has a coffee cup. That's it, man. He brought that coffee cup with him from series, man. And here's what I want to know is why these 2 broke-ass guys were on series and needed to get back to Eros, man. These 2 guys are broke as fuck. They show up on Eros, which is like a slum. I guess they're like homeless. They're like, we were riding the rails.
No, maybe you guys were like at the bottom of the ship, like on the Titanic, how like DiCaprio and all his guys had to stay on the bottom of the ship. And it was like you were just there to work and that you were working.
We were like shoveling coal in the bottom of the ship.
Shoveling coal in a nuclear engine ship. You're shoveling coal.
We're just shoveling coal, man.
Wrong century, buddy. Wrong century.
So I've never been an extra before. You know, obviously I've been in extra casting sessions, like where, you know, we talk to the extras casting people, but I don't know much about the work of being an extra.
Right.
And this was my first real exposure to that. So I learned some things. And one of the things I learned is professional extras. That's a real job. I mean, there are people who make their living being professional extras. They're very good at it.
Yeah.
It's like a real job. I mean, people want to like bash extras, but
it's a hard job.
It's a hard job. It's a super valuable part of filming. Give the extras credit. They do a hard job, and when you find good extras, it's such a blessing. It makes the shot better. So anyway, I'm not taking anything away from being an extra. Extras are awesome. But there's a hierarchy in the extras. Like there's like this whole internal power struggle with the extras, who gets to be on camera, who gets to be on camera longer. You're fighting for camera time if you're an extra, right? And I learned this the hard way. So the director says, hey, you guys, I want to make sure you get featured in this shot. So why don't the 2 of you flank Thomas Jane? Because we know the camera's going to be on Tom. So flank Thomas Jane. As he's walking up to the board to see where the Anubis is, you 2 just peel off to the left and walk off camera. That way you'll definitely be in the shot. And we're like, okay, so we're just going to do what the director tells us to do. What I didn't know is that pisses extras off because they're like, who the fuck are these motherfuckers coming in, taking all this camera time?
I paid my dues.
I paid my dues to get this shot, and you're coming in here, you're snatching my camera time, right? I didn't know that. So there's this one tiny little woman extra. She's like my wife's size. So she's probably like 5'2" or something. Tiny little person. I can tell she's pissed about all this because we're talking to Tom. Extras don't talk to core cast. You don't do that, right? You don't cross that line. And I don't know why that is, but it seems to be a thing. So we're standing there talking to Thomas. She's shooting me dagger eyes. Like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, the extras don't talk to Thomas. And then when the director comes over and gives us specific direction, extras don't get direction from the director. Extras get direction from the third AD. So the third's telling all the other extras what to do. The director walks over and talks to us directly and is like, here's what I want you to do. She's shooting dagger eyes at me again. Like, what the fuck? Who the fuck are you guys, right? So we do the first take. I'm walking forward. She body blocks me. She darts in front of me and stops and blocks me out of the shot and then takes my spot. And so,
she had an experienced extra move on your ass.
She had a move, man.
That's the block and pick.
She body blocked me out of the shot. So Bill, the director, comes over and he goes, Ty, I want to make sure you're next to Thomas when, you know, where were you? And I'm like, and I didn't want to rat her out. So I'm like, oh yeah, I messed it up. So I go back. We're doing the shot again. She tries to do it again, but this time I know what she's doing.
And you checked her.
I checked her. I checked her into the boards, man. Like, and I'm off camera when I'm doing it because it's before you turn that corner. So there was like, we walked down a hallway. And
you put her in the boards.
I put her in the boards, man. Yeah. I mean, I outweigh her by like probably 80 pounds. So I body checked her into the boards. Daniel fucked that take up because he looked into the lens. So we had to do it again. But I'm going to tell you this. She smartened up. The third time, she did not try to check me. She knew what was going to happen. So then she just kind of walked behind and to the side of me. So she got smart. I don't know if she wound up in the final shot or not, but there was this whole like unspoken thing going on between the two of us.
You just told like a one act about a one act about what it is to be. That would be a fun
to be an extra.
To be an extra, and it has like parallels to prison, right? Like you got to learn the rules.
It's prison rules out there, man.
It's prison rules, and if they try to punk you cannot be punked. You got to put them. You got to put them in the boards. You got to put them in the boards.
If I let her do that to me, from then on, every extra out there is selling me for cigarettes.
So that reminds me of one of my favorite extra stories. So we were doing the Philly Kid, and we were in Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we had this massive building that they converted into a gym, you know, and this gym was massive. And there was all kinds of corners of like the ring, there's the like stations, heavy bags, speed bags, ropes, all these stations of things we're going to do. And so we were going to do a shooting montage, like a fighting montage and different scenes of the scene, whatever. So we're going to go around and do this thing. And the extras showed up, and there was a guy just juiced to the tits, man, just juiced out of his mind. So he shows up, burrows through the crowd. So there's a crowd of extras. The third AD's there, and he's kind of like picking people out that are going to be in the gym that are working out around as we're all working out in the gym and doing scenes. And the director just happened to be there. And this guy barrels through the crowd, like literally just throwing people like violently out of the way. He gets to the front of the crowd, takes his shirt off, throws it down, and goes, "Where do you want me?" And the director, he just rubbed the director the wrong way. So you
don't do that, man.
Yeah, this is the way he did it. He's like, "Where do you want?" Because he was like being mean to people. So then the director was like, all right, we'll let him come in. And you know, I don't want to go into all the stories, but he was just not a good guy. Just wasn't a good guy. So the director was like, all right, fuck this guy. So so we had them set up like a little bit of lights and a little bit like in a corner of the gym that we never were to shoot. And they're like, okay. And he's like, okay, so here's what's going to happen. Every time you say action, every time you say cut, like you're going to do fucking shit. Like, show me what you got. And the guy's like, just fucking showing his shadow, but no skills, no talent, just juiced out of his mind. But he was like, you know, he's just going off. Like he goes, give me a grunt. Just like doing this stuff. So he goes, okay, so we got cameras on you. We're going to get all different angles or whatever. So wherever we are, we say action, fucking go at it. And the guy's like, yeah, just juiced and jacked and just excited, ready to go.
Right.
We started late that morning till late that night. Never once was a camera on that guy. And every time we were shooting around, we could be shooting on the other side of a gymnasium pretty much. And we're doing a scene every now and then you hear, and everybody would, because you would forget about him. And then you look over and he's still listening to action. He doesn't even have mics. He's just listening and hear his action. Just going at it, just trying to win an Academy Award off every single take till that night. And then the director looked over at the night and he's like, oh shit, that guy is still there. And that time he's like barely standing up. He's just exhausted, you know, and everything. And they come over and he's like, hey man, you did a good job. And he's like, yeah, I really went for it. And that poor bastard, when he saw the movie, man. But look, hey, there's a lesson in this. Don't be an asshole. Don't be an asshole on set. Don't be an asshole.
We've talked about this before, you know, like the way to get attention on a set is not the way people think you get attention.
Yeah.
So like if you have a minor part on a show with very few lines, we talked about this before. The best way to get the attention of the director is to be super present in the scene, even when you're not talking.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That is, and by present, I don't mean like making big, like clowny faces or drawing attention to yourself. Yeah. I'm saying like being present in like giving a good performance, even when you're not speaking. And if you're an extra, the way to get attention is to be incredibly professional.
Yes.
You know, when the third AD gives you direction, you do the thing they ask you to do. You're very professional, because what happens is the first AD is watching and the director is watching. And when they're going to start thinning people out, they're going to go ahead and get rid of 10 of those guys. And you'll hear the director and the first AD confab and go, I really like that guy. I like that guy. I like her. She's good. Like you hear them talking, and then the third AD will get rid of everybody else. That is based on those people are doing a good job at being the thing we need them to be.
Yeah. You know who's the most ruthless when it comes to extras is Breck Eisner.
Oh my God.
So
Breck has no chill.
He has no chill. He has no patience. Yeah. And, you know, and Breck has very specific, knows what he wants from all, like it's like a painting for him, like all movies. Yeah. And he'll tell people once, like he'll go through and say, okay, you do this, you do that, and then he's in there, and I think it triggers like, you know, and then you see the camera panning, and and he's in it, he's watching, it's everything, and if somebody fucks up or looks down the barrel, does something, he's like, it just drives him crazy, and so then he's like, the next scene, he's like, cut that guy, get the guy out of here, get the guy out of here, and then they go do it again, and so you're always like, man, you got to be on your P's and Q's when Mr. Eisner's directing.
Well, here's the thing, and
don't defend him and make me like an asshole.
I'm not defending him. What I'm saying is, this is the part of the unfairness of the business. The unfairness of the business is that if you're an extra, you are so easily replaceable that you get one foul and you're out, because you're easily replaceable. Directors are ruthless, man. And you know, if you mess up and look down the lens, if they want everybody to move left and you decide to be the one guy who moves right, you're going to hear a director yell, "Somebody get rid of that guy," and then a third AD is going to come over and say, "Yeah, we need you to step out of the shot." That's why being an extra is such a hard job, man. It's a thankless job.
All right, Ty, this is the moment that I know you've been waiting for. And in honor of the vomit zombies, some of the sci-fi purists, they don't like zombies in their sci-fi, but I fucking love it. And I love the vomit zombies in the book. I was a little disappointed, but we've learned a lesson. Sharon Hall gave her a note, and what Sharon Hall says, we listen. But it brings me to a topic, our closing topic that we can talk about is the top 5 greatest zombie movies. Ty and that guy list the top 5 greatest zombie movies. Now, I will have to say, I thought I knew a lot about the zombie until I met old Ty Franck. And if Ty Franck was an expert in anything, it's zombies and zombie movies. So Ty, I'm gonna start off with my pool, my favorite zombie movies off the top of my head that I really love, and then then we're gonna talk about a top 5. But there can only be one top 5 list, so we have to maneuver and we got to switch. You know, we'll have to fight for our favorites in that top 5. Hopefully we'll be in agreement, maybe not. Okay, and I'm sure I'm leaving off some zombie movies, but these are the ones I love off the top of my head. And okay. By the way, I know there's going to be people the launch out after every say is like, you forgot this movie, you forgot. And you know what? I love it. Keep it coming. We'll always address the movies that you talk about, but we're only human, and I'm not that bright. So, a zombie movie that I love: Night of the Comet, Dawn of the Dead, Shaun of the Dead, The Train to Busan, Zombieland, 28 Days Later, and I know this is one of your favorites, Ty, The Re-Animator, Dead Alive, The Return of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, 28 Weeks Later, and Dawn of the Dead Remake, okay?
Did you have Night of the Living Dead in there? The classic, the original? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Because that one is
I
great.
do. Yes. And so here's my top 5, okay?
Hit me with it.
Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, 28 Days Later, Day of the Dead, and Shaun of the Dead. Now,
I mean, that's a pretty good list. I don't know if Day of the Dead should be top 5, but that's a respectable list. I mean, you got some respect for the classics there.
Okay, well, so the reason it's just hard not to incorporate most of Romero's movies when it comes to the zombie movie and the zombie genre.
I agree, and I have great affection for Day of the Dead. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I actually like it quite a lot, and I thought it did some really interesting things. I'm just saying I don't know if it would hit my top 5 for me.
Talk about some of the criticisms.
It's Dawn of the Dead was so great that I think Day of the Dead suffers by comparison. I think if no one had seen Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead came out, I think if you see Day of the Dead without ever having seen Dawn of the Dead, you think Day of the Dead's pretty cool.
Right.
I think Dawn of the Dead was so revolutionarily good that Day of the Dead's okay. You know, I mean, it's a perfectly adequate zombie movie. It's a little claustrophobic in a way that Dawn of the Dead. So both of Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead are trapped in a single location. You know, in Dawn of the Dead, you're in the mall. In Day of the Dead, you're in that military base. For some reason, Day of the Dead feels much more claustrophobic, which I don't think is a bad thing, because I think the claustrophobia actually adds to the horror of, if a zombie gets in here, we're all fucked because we're in such confined space.
Yeah.
But I think that may have changed people's attitudes about it. I think some of the acting in Day of the Dead is not as good as the acting in Dawn of the Dead. I think we've got some characters in Day of the Dead that are let's be, and I'm not bashing this actor, but let's be honest. The military leader guy, he's chewing the scenery in every scene.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting is that Dawn of the Dead, it's just one of those things where it all comes together.
It all comes
right?
together.
Because, you know, you have Night of the Living Dead, which is it's the first time people have seen zombies or the undead. And, it, you know, and obviously it's a classic and it's great. And I remember my first experience with Night of the Living Dead. But when Dawn of the Dead comes out, the mythology of the zombie, the rules of the zombie, like the story, that somehow they got all these great amateur actors in the Pittsburgh area, and they came and they just really knock it out of the park, do a great job. But every now and then lightning strikes like that. And so I feel like Day of the Dead had a lot of the same ingredients, but it just didn't make the same meal that Dawn of the Dead
I think that's right. And it also began Romero's obsession with humanizing the zombies, because in Dawn of the Dead, they're just zombies. They're, you know, they're a threat.
Right.
Day of the Dead, like there's the guy who's like training the zombie to like be human again and all that stuff. I don't know. I know Romero was really into that idea. He does a lot of it he made another movie, Land of the Dead, which I think most people agree is not some of his best work.
Is that the one where they're in the apartment building and the rich people live it? Yeah. I did not like that one.
Yeah, it's not his best work. But again, like he's trying to humanize the zombies again, and suddenly zombies are like picking up guns and using them. And I don't think that's his best idea.
And I don't like smart zombies. You know, it just like now they're using guns and so it's just less interesting. It's like, why not just be a group of bandits that you're fighting against, you know, as opposed why should they be zombies?
I think Day of the Dead suffers from some of that because he spends a lot of time on the scientist and the zombie, spends a lot of time on that storyline, and I don't think it's an interesting storyline. But you know, I mean, it's a perfectly cromulent zombie movie. I don't hate it. But I would add some things to your list. If there's some,
you got to bump one.
No, I would add some things to your big list, to your pool.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because there's some obscure stuff you may not have seen that I think is really interesting.
The Argento movies.
There's a 1974 blaxploitation film called Sugar Hill, which is includes much more of sort of the classic zombie, black zombie kind of flavor to it, which is it's a blaxploitation film. It's got all the problems that blaxploitation films have, but it's an interesting movie, and it's got some genuinely creepy moments in it. Sugar Hill is a movie you should probably check out. The other one is Lucio Fulci made a movie called Zombie. Which is not a great movie, but includes, I think, the greatest zombie scene ever filmed. And that is the one where a zombie fights with the shark.
The shark. Yes.
I mean,
that is unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. It is
right.
It is such an astonishing moment.
Wait, I included that in my big list.
You did? Zombies in
it?
Oh, I didn't hear it. Sorry.
Because that shark. I mean, where did that come from? What did they do?
It came from the warped mind of Lucio Fulci, because that guy was fucked up, man. His movie. So you know that I love the Italian horror movies. Right?
Yes,
you know that's my jam. So
you wrote like an essay on it, right? An essay on Italian horror.
No, I've never actually written that essay, but I talk about. No, I have this whole like diatribe. If you get me drunk at a party and you just really want me to talk for an hour, ask me how each culture's horror movies tell you something vital about that culture's self-image. Because I could talk about how Japanese horror tells you a lot about the Japanese, and Italian horror tells you a lot about the Italians, and Spanish horror tells you a lot about the Spanish. And lately I've been getting into Thai horror, and I'm really interested what Thai horror is telling me about Thai culture. And of course American horror tells you a lot about our Judeo-Christian self-loathing. So, I mean, like, I'm really interested in it. But anyway, so I love the Italian horror guys. And Lucio Fulci made some really fucked up stuff, man. That guy...
Is Italian horror would you say your favorite? Your hands down favorite?
I would not say it's my favorite. I love Italian horror, but there's as much bad as there is good in Italian horror. So you kind of have to know what you're looking for. I actually think the creepiest horror is that early Japanese horror was creepy as fuck. And I'm a person who's like not scared by horror movies. I've seen so many of them, but some of those early Japanese horror movies that I watched, like the first time I saw The Grudge, I'm like, God damn, this is fucking creepy, man. These guys know how to do a creepy shot. And I think the American remake of The Ring is better than the Japanese version of The Ring, but I think The Ring is one of those movies. Like when I saw the Japanese movie The Ring, I was like, holy shit, man, this is some creepy ass shit going on here. I don't think the Italians are better than the Japanese. I appreciate 70s Italian horror because it did some really interesting things with color. The cinematography in that 70s Italian horror it was filled with these very bright, almost garish colors, which horror was always dark. Horror was always like almost black and white and grayscale and super dark. The Italians were like doing horror with really bright color, like really bright, like creepy greens and reds and blues, where the color was sort of creepy. I really appreciate that about what they were doing.
I think the first horror movie where I saw it was really bright light and brightly lit was American Werewolf in London. Like when they did the transformation into a werewolf, and it was really lit bright. You know, usually it's in the shadows and you can't see what's happening, and it's really, really great.
Well, they really wanted to show off that amazing, those amazing special effects for the transformation.
So if you were going to bump are you happy with this list, or would you want to take Day of the Dead or something else?
There's other things I would put in place of Day of the Dead, for sure.
And I will just say, like, Shaun of the Dead for me.
I love Shaun of the Dead. You're 100% right about Shaun of the Dead.
Okay, because in order to make me laugh, but also a genuinely scary, heartbreaking zombie movie, it's so well done. Horror
comedy is really hard to get right.
Yeah,
it's really hard to get right, and Shaun of the Dead is a perfect example of it. It's one of those almost perfect movies for me. So yeah, you're right on that one. I wouldn't put this in the top 5, but if you want to check it out, there's a movie you should check out that is very Shaun of the Dead like, called Juan of the Dead. Have you ever heard of that?
I have heard. I've never seen it, but I've heard of it.
So Juan of the Dead is worth watching because it is a zombie movie set in Cuba, set in like communist Cuba, and it's fascinating. It's a great movie. It's it's the only movie I've seen where the main protagonist fights off zombies primarily using a boat oar.
What? So a movie that keeps coming up when I was reading about this was Cemetery Man, and I've never seen it. Have you seen that movie?
I have seen Cemetery Man, but it was a long time ago. I'm not sure if I remember a lot about Cemetery Man.
Yeah, The Girls with All the Gifts. I read that book. I thought it was a great zombie book. I didn't see the movie, but our friend Dominique Tipper was in that.
I saw the movie. Dom has a very small part in it, unfortunately. She's good. I mean, she's always good in everything, but it's not a huge part. I did not think the movie was as good as the book for Girl with All the Gifts. They made some story changes that I don't think worked the way.
So
they thought they would
if you were going to bump the Day of the Dead, what would you put in place of it?
Wow. I'm a huge Reanimator fan. I might consider putting Reanimator up there.
Reanimator, like one of the reasons that it's in the pool is because it's like, I know how much you love that movie.
I love that movie. And that Stuart Gordon, the director of Reanimator, he's made some really terrible stuff. He's made some stuff that I think is quite good. But I like everything he does. He's just an interesting director. He's such a weird director. He directs some very strange stuff.
Okay. So
it's always interesting.
In honor of Ty's taste, we'll put Reanimator in there. So it's Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, 28 Days Later, Reanimator, and Shaun of the Dead.
I think that's
happy with that?
I think that's a pretty good list.
Respectable?
It's a respectable list. I'm trying to think if there's anything that I absolutely have to put on that list. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about it. But yeah, that's a respectable list. Like if I asked somebody their favorite zombie movies and they brought that list to me, I would think they had interesting taste.
Well, thank you guys for hanging out with us for season 1, episode 10, our first finale for season 1. And I hope you guys have enjoyed hanging out with us, and we've really enjoyed it. And let us know what you think. Give us ideas, ask us questions. If we continue on to do season 2, let us know if there's anything you want us to do different, anything you want us to cover more of or do less of. If you want me to replace Ty, just let me know.
I'm very replaceable. I'm definitely the extra of this show.
I just got to find another guy named Ty.
Yeah.
Or it all falls apart.
There's plenty of them out there. Hey, maybe you could get Brad Pitt and he could stay in the Tyler Durden character the whole time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, look, I love you, Ty, but if Apex Pitt wanted to come
Look, man, if I could replace you with Brad Pitt, you're gone. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, there's no reason not to just be honest about it, right?
If Monica Bellucci wanted to host a podcast, Ty, you're toast, man. You're out of there.
Like, hey, if Monica Bellucci wanted you dead, I'd be knocking on your door with a shotgun.
You say, and you know what? I would get it. I'd be like, Ty, you gonna kill me? And you'd be like, Monica Bellucci, and I'd be like, you know what? I get it. I totally get it. Can I turn around first?
I just hold up the phone. I'd be like, hey, Monica Bellucci wants to talk to you. She'd be like, sorry, I'm sending Ty over there to kill you.
We should do a top 5 list of who we would rather do this podcast with, who we want to replace.
I think that's a really good idea. I think that's
We'll do that. We'll do that on season 2. All right.
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna feel sad though, because my list is gonna be a bunch of people I could actually get.
That's how you can really hurt. That's how you can really hurt them. Is like if it's like people like mutual friends that would actually do it, that we can actually get to do it. You're like, wait a minute, I was talking about Tom Selleck and Burt Reynolds, and you're bringing up these guys.
Yeah, I'll be like, this guy works at the grocery store. Ray, he seems really cool.
All right, bye guys.
See you later.